On a moonlit sea in 1185, the last heirs of Japan's ruling clan stood at the edge of their ships with nowhere left to run. A grandmother held the child emperor close and walked into the waves. What destroyed them, and what rose in their place? "5 years, 2 clans, 1 war that ended 1,000 years of aristocratic rule, gave birth to the samurai class, and drowned Japan's most powerful family in the sea. So why did it happen? And who truly won?" Heian Court, Japan. For nearly 4 centuries, aristocratic families in Kyoto had controlled Japan through poetry, ceremony, and elaborate ritual, not swords. The emperor was sacred, untouchable, and almost completely powerless. Real authority belonged to the Fujiwara regents, who governed through marriage alliances and court intrigue. Warriors existed, but as servants, hired muscle for the nobility. They kept order in the provinces, suppressed rebellions, and returned to their inferior place in the hierarchy. Japan in 1180 was a world where the brush was mightier than the sword. That was about to change. The Taira clan shattered that order first. Under their leader, Taira no Kiyomori, warriors had clawed their way into the highest circles of power. Kiyomori maneuvered his daughter into the emperor's bed, and when she bore a son in 1178, that son became Emperor Antoku, making Kiyomori the grandfather of a god. He moved the capital, rewrote court hierarchies, and accumulated wealth that no warrior had ever held. The Taira had done the unthinkable. They had become the nobility they once served, and in doing so, they made enemies of everyone. The match that lit the fire was struck in the 4th month of 1180. Prince Mochihito, passed over for the throne, issued a secret call to arms to Minamoto warriors across Japan. Destroy the Taira. The message was intercepted. Mochihito was killed. But the call had already spread. In the east, far from Kyoto, a disgraced Minamoto heir named Yoritomo heard the summons. He had been exiled since childhood, spared only because he was too young to be a threat. He was 29. He was not young anymore. Yoritomo's first battle was a disaster. At Ishibashiyama, Taira forces outnumbered his handful of followers and scattered them into the forests. He fled into the mountains and hid for days. A different man might have given up. Instead, Yoritomo understood something that Kiyomori had underestimated. The East was Minamoto territory. Clan after clan that had chafed under Taira domination came to him. By the time Yoritomo emerged from hiding, he commanded not a handful of men, but an army. The Taira in Kyoto received the reports, and for the first time, felt uneasy. In 1180, a young man arrived at Yoritomo's camp in the east. Minamoto no Yoshitsune, Yoritomo's younger half-brother, raised in a mountain monastery after their father's defeat. The two men could not have been more different. Yoritomo was a calculating politician, building alliances and managing power from behind the lines. Yoshitsune was a fighter, reckless, brilliant, incapable of sitting still. Where Yoritomo fought in years, Yoshitsune fought in moments. Together, they were formidable. But their differences would eventually cost everything. For now, the Minamoto had a commander who could win battles. Through 1183, momentum shifted decisively. Minamoto General Kiso no Yoshinaka swept through the mountain provinces and drove the Taira out of Kyoto entirely. The Taira fled westward, taking with them the young Emperor Antoku and the three sacred imperial regalia: the sword, the mirror, and the jewel. In one stroke, the symbols of legitimate imperial authority had moved from the capital to a warship. Kyoto, the center of civilization for 400 years, was now occupied by soldiers. The Heian dream was cracking. The Taira regrouped at Ichi-no-Tani in early 1184, a fortified coastal position with steep cliffs behind and the ocean in front. It seemed impregnable. Yoshitsune's response was to do what no rational commander would attempt. He led a cavalry force to the cliff's edge and charged straight down. Horses stumbled, men fell. Some died before reaching the bottom. But enough survived to strike the Taira fortifications from the rear at the exact moment the main force hit from the front. The line broke. The Taira fled to their ships. Yoshitsune had done the impossible. The Taira retreated to Yashima on Shikoku and rebuilt their fleet. Yoshitsune would not let them rest. In early 1185, he crossed the inland sea in a winter storm that no sailor would willingly face, landed with a handful of men, and set fire to the surrounding villages. The Taira, panicked and uncertain of the size of the attacking force, abandoned Yashima and fled to their ships. It was a masterpiece of psychological warfare, achieved through audacity rather than numbers. The Taira now had only the sea, and Yoshitsune was already planning how to take that from them too. On the 24th day of the 3rd month, 1185, both fleets met at Dan-no-ura in the Straits of Shimonoseki. The Taira knew these waters, had more ships, and for the first hours the current worked in their favor. The Minamoto line buckled. Then the tide literally turned. As the current reversed, the Minamoto surged forward. A Taira commander defected mid-battle and revealed the location of the child emperor's ship. What had been a contest became a collapse. Within hours, the world's mightiest warrior clan had nothing left. Nothing but the sea. Taira no Tokiko, grandmother of the 7-year-old Emperor Antoku, understood what capture meant. The Minamoto would take the emperor and strip the Taira of their last claim to legitimacy. So she gathered the child in her arms, told him there was a paradise beneath the waves, and walked into the sea. Others followed. The sacred imperial sword Kusanagi, one of Japan's 3 divine regalia, was lost to the depths that day and never recovered. A child emperor, a sacred blade, a dynasty, all gone beneath the waters of Dan-no-ura.
Not all the Taira died at Dan-no-ura. The women were pulled from the water alive. Court ladies, noble women, warriors' wives. Some became nuns. Some were distributed among Minamoto commanders as prizes of war. Taira children who survived were hunted down over the following years and killed. Kiyomori himself had died of fever in 1181, before he could see his life's work destroyed. Of the hundreds of Taira nobles who had controlled Japan just 5 years earlier, almost none remained. The clan that had defied the old order was itself erased.
While Yoshitsune celebrated victories, Yoritomo was building something that would outlast them all. From his base at Kamakura, he watched the capital, the court, and his brother with equal calculation. He refused to enter Kyoto himself, refused to be drawn into court politics, and refused to let military victory become personal celebration. What Yoritomo wanted was not fame. He wanted a system, a government of warriors, built for warriors, located far from the corrupting influence of the imperial court. He would not make Kiyomori's mistake, reaching for the court's world and being absorbed by it.
In 1192, Minamoto no Yoritomo received the title of Seitai Shogun, the barbarian subduing generalissimo. For Yoritomo, it was not a court honor, but the foundation of a parallel government. The Kamakura shogunate administered warriors, managed provinces, settled legal disputes among the military class, and collected its own revenues, all without asking the imperial court for permission. Japan now had 2 governments, the ceremonial court in Kyoto and real power in Kamakura. The emperor was still sacred, but a warrior now decided what that meant.
The Heian world didn't disappear overnight. Aristocratic families still lived in Kyoto, still held their titles, still performed their ancient rituals. The emperor still reigned. He just no longer ruled. This was the bargain that would define Japan for the next 7 centuries. Imperial legitimacy in exchange for political irrelevance. The court survived as a cultural institution, a source of ceremony, aesthetics, poetry, and divine sanction for whoever held real power. Warriors would fight over who controlled Japan. The emperor would bless whoever won. An elegant arrangement that served everyone, except, perhaps, the emperor.
Here is the great irony of the Genpei War. Neither the Taira nor the Minamoto began as rivals to the court. Both clans were originally offshoots of the imperial family, surplus princes given surnames and sent to the provinces to manage the frontiers. They were created by the court, trained by the court, and spent generations serving the court. The Taira wanted to join the nobility. The Minamoto wanted to replace it with something new. In trying to escape the court's world, they didn't destroy it. they created a structure that would depend on it for legitimacy forever after.
The Genpei War established the template for every Japanese civil conflict for the next 700 years. The pattern repeats. A warrior clan accumulates power, challenges the existing order, triggers a military response, and the war reshapes Japan's political landscape. Whoever wins establishes a new shogunate, always alongside the imperial court, never instead of it, because imperial legitimacy remains necessary for ruling Japan. The Onin War, the chaos of the Sengoku period, the rise of Nobunaga, Hideyoshi, Ieyasu, all of it follows the script written at Dan-no-ura in 1185.
The Genpei War produced Japan's greatest literary epic. The Heiki Monogatari, the Tale of the Heike, was compiled within a generation of the war's end and recited by blind monks for centuries after. Its opening lines became among the most famous in Japanese literature. The sound of the Gion Shoja bells echoes the impermanence of all things. The Heike told the Taira story not as a villain's defeat, but as tragedy. A clan too proud, too beautiful, too close to the sun. In Japan, it is the losers who are remembered with the deepest feeling.
Next time on Samurai Chronicles, we return to Dan-no-ura, a 7-year-old emperor, a grandmother's impossible choice, and a sacred sword lost to the sea forever. The battle that ended an era. Coming next.
If the story of the Genpei War moves you, subscribe to Samurai Chronicles. New episodes every day. The age of the samurai has only just begun.